Hello! Konbanwan, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time zone you're in, and welcome, welcome, welcome. It is currently 1:01 p.m. Central Time on September 25th, 2025. And welcome to the continuation of I Dared My Best Friend to Ruin My Life. He's succeeding. Hi, Shiki. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. It's the best day of the week, you guys. Thursday is the best day of the week, and I'm glad that we can spend it in a solo stream together. We are going to be reading the rest of I Dared My Best Friend to Ruin My Life. He's Succeeding, which is a really popular no-sleep story on Reddit. We read parts 1 through 5 last week, so now we're going to read parts 6 through 8 today. So it may be a little bit shorter of a stream, depending. We'll just have to see. I do have some stuff that I gotta get done today. I've got work today. I got all kinds of stuff going on. I gotta clean my house. All that good stuff. How are you guys doing? How are you guys doing this fantastic Thursday afternoon? I didn't get a wink of sleep. As it always is. I'm so excited to spend Saturday night at my mom's house so that I can finally get sleep away from my little demon. Little demon who is snuggling up next to Ozzy so sweetly right now. Oh. Finally had an easy work day, so it was pretty decent. Awesome. Hello, very sleepy. Work sucks. Want to be home playing Vintage Story instead. Lots of sickness going around, but I'm doing better. Yeah, I think my throat is finally doing a lot better. No, I'm just dealing with tummy aches. Oh, konbanwan. Hello, Noseless. Hello. Oh my gosh, guys. Tomorrow we play Silent Hill F. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Today, I got up at my usual time of 7 a.m. And, well, actually, originally I woke up at 3 a.m. because my puppy decided to start eating my Switch to let me know that he was hungry. So I got up at 3 a.m. and fixed him a bowl of food. And then 7 a.m. happened. Had to wake up Hiki and feed my puppy for the second time. And then what was it? I got up and I drank a full bottle of water. I'm trying to drink more water because I think that it will help me a lot and help my digestion. So I'm drinking like a lot more water because I'm not getting enough fluids, and I feel like I've been really dehydrated lately. Drinking a lot of water and having like a lot of like sodium intake is really good for people with POTS. I have POTS. So I'm trying to drink more water so that I don't feel like I'm gonna die and pass out every day. And then Aki is in Japan right now, and she's able to call me for a little bit now. So she called me before she went to sleep, and she told me all about her fun day today. It was so awesome to hear about. She sent me some little karaoke videos she did, and it was awesome. And then I started recording a little bit. Trying to get through my backlog still. It's still pretty crazy. Now it's 2 a.m. and this music is so scary. I'm so fucking scared. Progress is progress, even if it's slow. That's true. You hear that? I was messing with my headphones. It sounds like a zipper, almost. I saw someone give Silent Hill F a negative review because scary. That's so silly. They should go back to preschool where they belong. my dog is so cute. My dog's plural. So awesome. I'm so excited for the weekend because we have Silent Hill F on Friday. Me and Hani are gonna go to an event, and then I'm gonna stay there at my mom's, and we're gonna paint. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be so epic. And then, oh my god, October is next week. What? October. This is crazy. How is this happening? Anyway, guys, the story is pinned at the top of the chat if you'd like to read along. We are on part 6 of I Dared My Best Friend to Ruin My Life. He's succeeding. So, let's get started. I'll jump right in and not read the note. I laid in an empty cell, trying to catch a small nap since I'd been up all night. My mind was racing, though, and made it hard to sleep. I kept rehearsing what I was going to say when Hernandez finally came to get me. They'd emptied my pockets into evidence bags, took my fingerprints, and one cop was heading out to search my car. I wasn't dumb. I knew that the evidence would point the police to 3 conclusions. 1, that I'd been in David's home recently. After all, the data on that flash drive has been updated just the day before, even the ones that didn't have the kidnapping transcription on them. 2, the flash drive containing messages between David and his partner might lead them to believe I had kidnapped Katie. And 3, that I'd stolen David's hard drive as well as confidential medical information. I kept trying to play out the conversation with Hernandez. I hoped it would pan out the same way it was running in my head. I was woken up by a slight knock on the bars. My eyes peeked open to see a man in a suit standing there accompanied by an officer. "Hello. Sorry to disturb you," he said sheepishly. "I'm Terry Jason, your public defender. May we talk?" "Yes, of course," I said, sitting up. The officer entered and cuffed me. We were both led to the interrogation room where I'd met Hernandez for the first time. "I trust you will shut off the cameras," he said to the officer. The cop nodded, removed my handcuffs, and closed the door. "You can call me Terry," he said, reaching out to shake my hand. We sat down opposite each other with a table between us. "I've heard a little about your case in a brief overview from the chief," he said, pulling folders from a briefcase. It's long," I admitted. "So I hear," he said. "I'm going to have to apologize in advance. It's likely that you'll have to repeat your story many times during these proceedings. To prevent this as much as possible, you and I are going to sit down and write your version of events down. That way, you can fall back on your statements and ensure that what you say is consistent and accurate. Does that sound good to you?" he said. It made sense, so I nodded. "First, I have a contract here for you to sign that says you agree to let me represent you in criminal proceedings." He pushed a paper and pen across the table to me. I skimmed it and signed at the bottom. He pulled it back. "Would you like me to call you Xander or Mr. Jones?" he asked with an easy smile. "Xander is fine," I replied. "Okay, Xander, let's start writing." Terry sat patiently with me while I wrote every detail I could think of. I began with my dare conversation with David and followed all the way up to this point. It started out as a page with scrambled memories and words to jog my memory. Then, it slowly formed into a statement that Terry helped me edit into a cohesive, fact-based statement. "When you are asked about your memories or an event, refer them to this document," he said. We worked for an hour before he spoke again. "I have to go to another appointment, but I've asked that you be allowed to continue working in your cell. I've scheduled a meeting with the prosecutor and Detective Hernandez tomorrow at noon. Do you think you can have it complete by then?" "Yes, I think so," I said. And I did. I spent the rest of my day writing that statement. I slept sporadically, but I was desperate to complete it before noon the next day. So much had happened, and I had so much to say. I was quite proud of the results. In fact, I was more proud of that statement than this one. The statement had a lot more fresh memories. This one feels a little scatterbrained. My statement was concise and to the point. But maybe it's for the best that this is the one that I posted. The next day, at noon, I was back in the interrogation room. Terry sat to my left. Hernandez stood against the wall, facing me with his arms crossed. I couldn't read his expression. On the other side of the table sat an older man who had introduced himself as Chief Gunderson, Hernandez's boss. Beside him stood a tall, lanky man with slick-back hair. He held his hands behind his back, watched me intently. The tape recorder between us was running. "I've been brought up to date on the cases you're involved in," Chief Gunderson said in a gruff voice. "I'm interested to hear everything from your perspective considering the recent developments." "You arrested me just to hear my side of the story?" I sniffed. "No, I arrested you because you were suspected of burning down Anne King's house and thereby killing her," Chief Gunderson said. "Hernandez tells me that you might have felt justified in doing so considering all the accusations that you've levied against Mr. King. So, I'd like to hear what has happened from the beginning and hear your side of the events." "Who's he?" I asked, pointing to the lanky man. "I'm the prosecutor, Adam Luderman," he answered. "Oh, so you'll be the one trying to put me in prison," I quipped. Terry put a warning hand on my leg. "I'll be trying to establish the truth about what happened," he corrected, glaring down at me. "My client has prepared a statement that he intends to wholly rely on," Terry said, pushing copies of the 17 handwritten pages across the table. The chief and prosecutor took one. Hernandez stepped forward and grabbed one too. He instantly started reading from a spot in the corner. I tried to catch his eye, but he didn't look at me. "I trust we can begin the process of discovery today," Terry asked. "I'll need copies of everything as well as a copy of the official indictment." I tuned Terry out and focused on Hernandez. There was something about his demeanor that caught my attention. I couldn't tell what it was. I was focused on him for the entire meeting, trying to figure out what my instinct was telling me. They talked over legal details with Terry and corroborated the process of discovery between the two parties. A couple days later, Terry was sitting with me in the interrogation room again, talking through what he'd learned from discovery. Discovery is when the two sides of a case share evidence so there are no surprises when they go to trial. Anything not brought up in discovery is not admissible in court. Before trial, though, would come my arraignment? Oh, arraignment. Arraignment. That's when the formal charges would be laid against me, and I would have to plead either guilty or not guilty. Terry was talking through discovery with me, so I would be prepared for what they'd say during the hearing and decide whether I'd plead guilty or not guilty. Here's what I learned. After I'd been arrested, the police had searched my car and found the hard drive, flash drives, and psychiatric evaluation, and something else that was curious. A half-empty gas canister. That fucker had planted a gas can in my car at some point without me knowing. I'd been in my car all night, so either David knew he was going to burn his house down before I went to Walmart, or he planted it in the few minutes I was in the police station. I told Terry about the gas can being planted, and he wrote down some notes. The police had searched through the contents of all the flash drives and discovered the conversations between David and his partner, except, as predicted, they accused me of writing the messages and therefore linked me to a kidnapping. The text file never specified Katie's name, but they claimed Katie's kidnapping was the most likely scenario since I knew about it and was therefore involved. Despite the evidence, however, the prosecution didn't feel they could convince a jury without more evidence. So, Katie's kidnapping wasn't planned to be laid against me as a formal charge, but they were searching for evidence. They had also tried to open the contents of David's hard drive, but found that it was encrypted, just like I had. They'd sent it off to a lab to be analyzed for whatever data could be salvaged. The medical report was classified as inadmissible because it pertained to an individual who did not consent to the dissemination of its content. As a citizen of the United States, you get some control over who can look at your medical records. Denying its use in a courtroom is a right in certain situations, including this one. David had decided to exercise that right and deny access. As a result, the prosecutor could only charge me with possession of someone else's medical records without permission. That was a serious crime, apparently. Terry had also been informed that the identity theft case was being combined into the charges against me. The credit card companies had done their own investigations and were filing criminal charges against me for fraud. Why would they do that? Because a technical investigation into the origin of the registration for the fraudulent cards found that the reporter himself, Xander Jones, had indeed filled out and completed the registration forms from his own computing device. In other words, they traced the IP address of who had filled out the registration forms for the cards online and found that my computer had been the one to sign up. Which meant they were accusing me of signing up, spending all the money, and then reporting fraud. Also, a major crime. The emptying of my bank account was also pinned on me. Again, they claimed I was trying to commit tax fraud by filing a false claim with the bank. The police had finally got the security tapes from the convenience store where the ATM was located. There were 3 angles. One camera was above the door, one was above the register, and one was in the far corner of the store opposite the ATM. The tape showed a man in a dark hoodie walk into the store. The video was grainy as you would expect, but despite that, a large symbol on the back of the hoodie could be recognized. The man in the hoodie walked to the ATM and pulled something from their pocket. The prosecution claimed it was a cell phone since the timestamp on the camera matched the timestamp of the login to my bank account. The hooded figure looked down at it for a few minutes before typing into the ATM, blocking the screen with their body. The money spat out, he grabbed it, and he walked towards the door. The camera on the opposite corner from the ATM was the only one able to catch a glimpse of their face. It was grainy, but the prosecution compared it to pictures from my Facebook profile to claim that it had just enough resemblance to have been me. Compared to David's pictures, it could have been him too. I'd argued that point with the prosecutor pretty fiercely. When I was done with my outburst, the prosecutor told me that the investigators had also found a hoodie with the same logo in my apartment. Then they played their trump card. The bank had been logged into from the IP address assigned to my own cell phone during that time period. Regarding the fire, which was the main accusation against me, they had decent evidence. The gas can was one and the voicemail was another, but there was an even stronger evidence. When I first arrived at Walmart, I parked near the front doors in view of the cameras hanging off the building. They clearly saw me drive away when I was heading to David's house. When I came back, though, I had parked in the back of the lot, intending to be away from the other cars while I slept. The cameras could barely make out my car parking on the back lot. It was too dark to tell if it was even a vehicle. The prosecutor claimed, so, realistically, I only had my own testimony to support the fact that I got back to Walmart at around 6 p.m. I should add that it took around 15 minutes to get to David's house from the Walmart, just so you can understand the time frame. Fire crews had received a call at 6:04 p.m. that David's home was on fire. They had raced over immediately and found the house burning brightly. David had been found trying to lift his mother up from the ground in her bedroom. They brought them both out, and it was discovered that Miss K was already dead from suffocation. David had been rushed to the hospital with a few minor burns and some smoke inhalation. He had yet to explain his version of events to the police. The firefighters had filed a report stating that the fire had been started from the middle of the living room where a puddle of gasoline had ignited. The flames had spread throughout the house. Traces of gasoline were found in various rooms, making them believe that the suspect, me, went from room to room and splashed gasoline around just like in the movies. I'm gonna drink some water. Welcome everyone joining in. Let me get more comfortable in my seat. Okay, there we go. I think I popped my jaw. Ugh. They also concluded that the fire had been started sometime before it was called in because of how much damage had already occurred by the time they arrived. I now know that David had set an alarm on his phone that was linked to the app he had installed on my phone. When my GPS read that I was at his house, an alert would be sent to his phone as a text message. I can only guess that he jumped in his car, left work, and sped all the way home. That's why I think the time was so close. I'm telling you all this detail so you can see just how hopeless I felt when I sat in jail. I was there for 2 whole weeks where it was the same accusations and evidence over and over. I really started to just give up. During the first few days, I asked Terry about how we could prove that it was David specifically who had committed these crimes. He frowned and told me I should be more concerned about being proven innocent, period, not on pinning it to another man. By the end of the 2 weeks, I was ready to just plead guilty rather than fight. The arraignment went poorly. No charges were thrown out that had been placed against me. I would list all the crimes I was being charged with, but I don't remember their exact phrases, and I know I'll get it wrong. You get the general idea, though. I was fucked. Bail had been set at $5,000, which essentially guaranteed I'd be stuck in jail for a while. I'd already contacted my parents out of desperation, and they would try to raise the money from family members and friends, but couldn't pay immediately. After 3 weeks, I was very depressed and not eating much. Terry tried to cheer me up by showing me parts of arguments he was preparing, but nothing could cheer me. I thought about Katie a lot, and Clark and Ivan, and I missed my parents. I also missed Clark's first hearing in the graffiti case, so I had no idea how that was going, which made me feel guilty that I couldn't support him. During the time I was in jail, Hernandez only came to visit me once. It was during the 3rd week. I jumped off my bed and ran to the bars. "Hernandez," I said, "please tell me you've come to give me good news." "No," he said. "You're being transferred to the county jail. Your trial will be happening there." "Why?" He shrugged. "Just how it works," he said. "Did they find anything on Isaac?" I asked. I'd been clinging to the hope that Isaac's body would turn up evidence against David. I just wanted to nail him for that one crime, just one. I wanted it so bad that my hands would shake when I thought about it. "I'm not allowed to talk about that," he said, avoiding my eyes. "Anyway, I came to tell you that you'll be moved in 3 days." "Hernandez," I said as he turned to leave. "I thought you believed me." "I do," he said, "until you burned David's house down. Now, I'm not so sure who the psychopath really is." "I didn't do it," I shouted, but he walked away. 3 days later, as Hernandez had said, they came to move me. After dinner, I was cuffed and led out the doors to a police cruiser that would drive me up to the county jail 2 hours away. The 2 officers would... County jail 2 hours away? How is your county that big that it's 2 hours away? Weird. The 2 officers who drove were polite to me, but instantly cranked up the radio when we got on the road. I could barely hear myself think and was starting to get frustrated. I had always hated car trips without my own music. Now I was stuck in a 2-hour ride with my hands cuffed behind my back and a radio blasting music I didn't like. We were about an hour in, and I was ready to scream. I stared out the window, trying to find something interesting to watch and focus my mind on. We were on a 2-lane highway with no other cars in sight. It was getting late, so, looking back, I figured people were home for the night, and that's why it was so dead. My view of a nice lake was suddenly obstructed by a big, gray truck. I tried to find something else to look at, but then noticed it was getting dangerously close to our lane. I looked up at it and saw that it was an armored truck, and it had the same logo as the company David worked for. The panic was instantaneous. Something gripped my lungs and kept me from vocalizing. The truck slowly nearing the side of the police cruiser before pressing against it. The cop shouted. The cop who was driving slammed on his brakes, and the other cop dropped the radio he was reaching for. The cruiser didn't slow down fast enough, however, and the truck nudged it off the road. I braced for impact as we rolled down the grassy slope and slammed into a tree. My seatbelt had held me in place, but my head ached when it rammed against the driver's headrest. The 2 cops were unconscious, lying at awkward angles. Neither of them had their seatbelts. "What do you mean neither of them had their seatbelts? They're cops!" I started yanking at the handcuffs, trying to reach my seatbelt to undo it. I reached the red button and pressed it. When I turned back around to wriggle out of the loose seatbelt, I saw David fucking King walking down the slope towards the car. Oh shit, oh shit, oh fuck. I cursed, turning to reach for the door handle with my cuffed hands. No such luck. The doors were locked from the outside to prevent prisoners from opening the doors on their own. David got closer and closer until he was right outside the car. He shot a smirk at me and opened my door. I tried to back away, but he grabbed my arm and tossed me out of the car. I fell to the dirt with a gasp. I sat up a little and saw that he turned his attention back to the police car. I saw one of the cops begging to stir. David opened the driver's door and pulled something small from his pocket. With a quick motion, he stabbed the cop in the neck. Blood spurted out, and the cop started screaming and gurgling, grabbing for his neck. I think I screamed too, but I can't remember. He closed the door and walked around to the other side. I could see the other cop was moving, but I couldn't tell what he was doing. Apparently, he was reaching for his radio because David yanked it out of his hands and set it on the car's roof. Then he stabbed that cop too. Both of them were unconscious in seconds. "Don't get up," he threatened, walking towards me. I didn't bother trying. He walked over to where I sat and went behind me. I tried to face him, but he kicked me lightly. He knelt down and I felt him scratching the metal on my handcuffs. I was confused, but sat absolutely still. "Nice to see you again, Xander," he said, walking to stand in front of me. I watched him with true fear. His entire demeanor was different from the night we graffitied his house. He was changing. When I didn't answer, he laughed. He was twisting the small object in his gloved hand. I noticed through the blood that it was a crudely crafted shiv about the length and width of a finger. "I told you, I'm not going to kill you, Xander. In fact, for once, I'm here to help you out. Sort of." "What does that mean?" I asked shakily. "Remember the night you graffitied my house?" I nodded. "I told you I consider giving you advice on how to succeed in our game. Well, the time has come. I'm giving you more than advice. See, you're no fun in jail. I've seen the evidence they have on you. You're going away for a long time. I don't want that. So, I'm granting you a second chance to keep playing." He walked behind me again, and I felt sticky blood on my fingers and hand as he pressed the small shiv against my hand. "Now, here's how this works," he said, standing back in front of me. "I'm going to leave this knife with your fingerprints out in the car. They'll think you stabbed the cops and made a run for it. I'm going to remove your handcuffs and let you make a run for it. You'll have a 30-minute head start before I call in on the radio." "Oh God, he has a knife! He stabbed the driver and he's..." David cut off, mimicking the call he'd make. Goosebumps ran up my spine. "I'll be sitting here and waiting. If you attempt to come back, I'll just take you away in my car and we'll play a different game. Do you understand?" I nodded, too terrified to speak. "Get up," he commented. It's a Rita! A knife! "Get up," he commanded. I struggled to my feet, rolling in the dirt to get to my knees and stand. "Come here," he said, moving towards the police car. I followed. He opened the police car door and put his hand against the officer's neck. I flinched when he flicked blood at me. It splattered across my jail suit and face. I almost threw up. "There we go," he purred. He motioned for me to turn around, and I did. He pulled the handcuff keys off the dead cop and unlocked the cuffs. I rubbed my wrists. They were sore and marked from the car crash. I considered trying to get the shiv from him and attack, but the idea of going with him in his car to play other games terrifies me. David had set a backpack next to the car and now set it in my hands. "Hernandez says hello," he said with a malicious grin. "I paid him a lot of money to get him to let me track this car. He demanded that I give you half. Of course, I'm not that generous, so here's $2,000, a change of clothes, new shoes, and a map. Nearest town is 10 miles west. Better hurry. Remember, in 30 minutes, I'm calling it in." My jaws shook as I put the backpack on and started heading towards the setting sun. The forest looked dark and menacing. I looked back when I was partway through the trees, and there he was. He leaned against the car, drinking from the coffee container one of the cops had brought with, shuddering and shocked and absolutely terrified. I walked on into the woods. This is awesome. This is such a awesome slow burn yowie. Alright, we are moving on to part 7. I'm going to take a short break to drink some water. Ooh, oh my god. They're killing cops now. How many parts are there in total? There are 8 parts, so we're about to read part 7. But there's also a sequel. It's like a continuation that exists too. There's more to it. There's part 7 and part 8. We're about to... My friend messaged me and said, "You're reading that story? Binky, that was so fucking funny." Wibagi, thank you so much for being a member for 49 months. When do they kiss? Good question. I feel like this is so L and light coded. I'm gonna drink some more water. There we go. Enemies to lovers arc goes hard. It does. If they just go full-blown yaoi without kissing, that would be so dirty. I'm so fucking excited. I'll get back to where we left off. I honestly don't remember most of the night after the car crash. I only have glimpses of memories, and I won't try to coherently express them here. I got my bearings back after I'd slept off the shock. My higher functions kicked back into gear after I'd gone to a grocery store and bought a small amount of food. The amount of hunger that shock can induce is extreme. Really? I feel like when I'm shocked or stressed out, I can't eat anything. Hunger does not exist. I'd rifled through the backpack and found exactly what David had said. Shoes, a pair of clothes, $2,000 cash, and $120 bills. And a road atlas booklet. I still have that atlas and use it when I'm moving on. Once I had food, water, and an inventory of my belongings, I could start to plan and work. I dumped my jail clothes in a dumpster and paid for a haircut to try and alter my appearance. Yes, I washed the blood off my face and hair before going in. When I looked to the mirror afterwards, I still recognized myself, so I paid the hairdresser to dye my hair too. I know there are self-dyeing kits that cost way less, but I had nowhere to do it. I knew I couldn't stay in this town because David would know exactly where to find me. I had no idea how long this truce would last, so I had no intention of staying here one more night. I bought a bus ticket to an adjacent state and arrived only a few hours later. The town I chose was larger than the one I had come from. This was intentional so that I could have anonymity and a better selection of services for the homeless. This town had a soup kitchen that I could use to cut down on costs, as well as a homeless shelter. I knew I couldn't live long on the already dwindling $2,000, so I started going to the library and searching online for odd jobs. I had to find something that wouldn't run a background check, if at all possible, because of the manhunt that was probably going on for me. I saw nothing about it in the news yet, but it had only been a day. After a week of searching, I found a job at a seedy telemarketing place that paid cash under the table. You'd be surprised how many of these there are. I hated the work, but I was out of the sun and making some money. Before I found a run-down and half-empty apartment complex to live in and pay weekly, I slept in the homeless shelter. I could have just stayed there and saved a lot of money, sure, but I hated going there and avoiding it as long as possible when nighttime came. The money I spent on the apartment was well worth it. I had some semblance of a life setup, and now I could get the real work done. I'd gone to the mall and bought the cheapest prepaid Android phone they had and signed up for a monthly subscription that gave me unlimited data as well as texts and calls. I need to find a store to pay cash and top up every month, but it wasn't an expensive plan. And I needed internet when the library was closed. During the days, I spent my time in the library with a cheap notebook, doing some research similar to what I'd done in the Walmart parking lot. I also spent a lot of time working out and trying to get stronger. Before I had the apartment, I'd paid for a gym membership and showered there instead of at the homeless shelter. I decided to keep the membership and use their machines to get a more effective workout. The plan at the time had been to stay alive and away from David and the cops. I stayed inside the day the news broke up of my escape in the other state. The police finally admitted to needing help in finding me and went public for a request for information. They listed off the crimes I was accused of, as well as a request to question me in regards to the 2 dead policemen. I wrote down every detail of the investigation, though none of it proved useful other than a background knowledge. I kept up with the sporadic news releases so I could stay as far ahead of the cops as possible. For the next 6 months, I stayed in this city. During that time, I learned a lot. Living on a tiny budget, home repairs when the landlord wouldn't fix something, hiding when you suspect you're being followed, and navigating the streets at night all became second nature to me. I also continued to study computers and networks. I am by no means any kind of licensed professional. I learned by deciding what I wanted to know how to do, and then practicing it over and over. One day, I was at the library when the news was published online. David fucking King was suspected of murdering the 2 cops. I was ecstatic and couldn't believe my luck. David King had finally made a mistake that had cost him. The news story did not specify why the police suspected him, but I didn't care. David was going to get what he deserved. A month passed with still no news on whether David had been captured or not. I found myself tempted to call Detective Hernandez and ask what he knew, but I didn't. I learned a lot of self-control and risk assessment during those 7 months. Risk analysis was built into my daily decisions. After checking for news on David for the 3rd time in a week, I decided that I would no longer be a bystander waiting for David to be caught. I decided to begin actively hunting David. Since I knew he was good with computers, the internet was the best place to begin looking for traces of him. I searched hundreds of forums, scouring for a list of keywords that I thought David would either post or look for. I won't include that list here. In only a couple weeks, I found one of his online accounts on Stack Exchange. I took notes on everything he commented as well as his account activity. Fortunately, he had kept the same account for several years. Granted, it was under a pseudonym, but he'd kept at it. He still uses it today. I just checked. He was logged in 7 hours ago when I wrote this. Once I found one account, it held clues to many others. He slipped out information accidentally that I could use to locate his other accounts. Posts like, I've asked this question on this other forum and got no response, so now I'm asking it here, would link 2 accounts and reveal yet another goldmine of data for my study. I spent weeks gathering pseudonyms, post records, and IP addresses he'd used. Anything I could find with the tools I had available. Some pseudonyms he used more than once, and others he created as throwaway names. The research gave me invaluable insight into the way David thinks, talks, and acts. I got to know him on a level I could never have hoped to understand from just being his friend in high school. It made my hate for him grow, not diminish. I didn't only check the regular web either. Some people claim the deep web is a terrifying place where you can get killed at every turn, but it isn't if you don't act stupid. I installed Tor and began doing the same... Okay, there we go, sorry. I got an email and it scared me. I installed Tor and began doing the same data mining in the deep web. The results were fantastic. I found catalogs worth of information. I was able to identify a lot of his false identities online and then map them to the fake social media pages he had created for when he might need a cover-up. And all of this came because he insisted on using the same usernames over and over again. Why did he do that? Because he wanted people to know who he was, when they interacted, and respect him. Weakness. One day, just for the hell of it, I sent him a message as myself to one of his accounts. I made my email address visible on purpose. He'd need it. The spam mail started instantly after that. The response was so childish and brash that I was smiling the whole day. I knew that I could get to him. I also tried calling the Psychological Institute where David's record should be. If I was lucky, I could get my hands on another copy of his evaluation and study it with new eyes. There was no such luck, however. David had called them and told them not to send copies to anyone because he was the current victim of fraud. How ironic. I was able to use his accounts that were used the most to track down his location. Sometimes he used a VPN and sometimes he didn't. Recently, last week actually, he moved to a nearby city. He seemed to be following his own instructions to his partner to move along after only a couple of days. He was jumping from city to city, but not crossing the entire country every time he moved. He was making a snake-like trail throughout the country. Oh no, not the deep web. I went over to this town he'd moved to and walked the streets for hours hoping for a glimpse of him. It was just my luck that he walked out of a grocery store just as I was walking in. He didn't notice me. Where is it? But I followed him back to where he was staying. For a couple of days, at least, I knew where he was. Ooh. The next few days were spent in surveillance. I watched him day and night. Following him everywhere, I saw no sign of Katie being with him, though, which made sense. His partner only came to visit once. He stayed for only 10 minutes before leaving in a car I hadn't seen him arrive in. I blew my only opportunity to follow him since I had no car of my own. When David moved on, I followed him. I slept on the streets again, unwilling to let him leave my sight. I followed him around and learned so much about him from his routines and habits. I'd learned so much about my enemy and my nemesis that I was finally ready to confront him for the last time. And now, everyone, we come to the crux of the story. This is the focal point that this entire series has led up to. Hello, David King. I know you're reading this. I see you check it during your morning coffee routine at Starbucks. It took you a few days to find it, but I knew that if I told the story through to the end and gained enough popularity, you'd find it. The more people who became interested, the more likely you were to see it. And now, here you are. I'm sitting here, watching to see your face when you read this part. This has been the buildup of the entire series. I wrote all of this for this one moment. You've read every comment. I've seen you scrolling through them and opening sub-comments to see what they say. You're very invested in what everyone has to say. And the one thing you can conclude from the comments is this. Everyone here hates you. Every last one. Hundreds of people now hate you. Many of them have offered time, talent, and cunning towards your complete destruction. I refused their help until now. I want Katie back. All my stalking hasn't told me what really matters, where she is, so I'm using this thread to get to you. Either you give Katie back, or I release everything about you to all these people who hate you. I know aliases, addresses, phone numbers, comments admitting to illegal activity, social security numbers, driver's licenses, passports, online account names, everything. The police will have it all too. I've been tracking you for so long, David. The first few lines of every post, where I said, for example, that you'd almost found me, they were lies I'd been watching from afar during the entire publication of these posts. Right now, as I'm about to press submit, you bought a sandwich at Jimmy John's, the meatball sub. It's currently Saturday, July 2nd, 7:32 p.m. There's your proof that I'm nearby. Convinced yet? Bring Katie to Wells Park at 10 p.m. tonight and leave your partner behind. If you don't show, I will release all of the information I have, dedicate the rest of my life to updating that information and releasing it to anyone here who wants to do something about it. I've set up a time release of the information. It will be automatically posted via private message to everyone who ever commented on these threads, and they will spread it even further. The time release will occur at 3 a.m. tonight unless I'm there to stop it. You need 2 people to stop it, each one with their own password. No, I won't tell you who the other person is. For everyone else here on the thread, I'll have another post up in at least 48 hours. I'm giving myself a time buffer to respond in case David tries anything stupid. If I don't write an update and the information has been released, you'll know what happened. You have all asked what you can do to help me. If you receive the information, do what you need to. See you soon, David. There's a comment that says, as a former Jimmy John's employee, I can confidently say that they don't have a meatball sub. There's so many people that are like, Jimmy John's doesn't have meatball subs. Someone said, is this fucking real? This is so funny. Okay, guys. We're about to start the last part. We're about to start the last part in Series 1. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Maybe they meant to say Jersey Mike's. Oh, sorry, that was my boom arm. I was trying to bring it down. This thing needs oil. Ooh, must be alternate reality? Maybe so. Maybe so. For a second I thought you were deflating. I would. If this happened to me, I'd probably deflate. That's just me, though. What if the whole thing is unreliable narration and David didn't actually do anything? Oh man. That reminds me of that webtoon I was talking about on Twitter today. I quote retweeted an old tweet I made last year about a webtoon I was reading about this like yandere boyfriend, and it turned out that he was never real, and that the girl that he was dating ended up being like this murderer and doing all these terrible things. Here we go, the last part. Well, I'm back. Hi everyone, I'm alive. I'll just start telling you what happened. I'm starting to shake as I even think about writing everything down, but I have to finish this. After I posted my last update, it was go time. I've been preparing for this event for so long that it was hard to believe that I had just hit submit. I couldn't go through and comment to everyone that part 7 was up. Sorry, I had to see David's reaction. I put my phone in my pocket and watched David from across the street. He was eating dinner just like I said in my post. His phone clearly went off because he perked up his head and grabbed his phone from the table. I'd seen his phone go off whenever I posted before, so I knew he had set an alarm. I watched his eyes scan the post with interest. Then his eyes slowly widened. I knew when he reached my favorite part, because his gaze shot up and looked around the restaurant. He wrapped up his sandwich and quickly walked out of the restaurant, his eyes scanning the street while stealing glances at his phone to keep reading. It was a very satisfying scene. It makes me smile just thinking about it. I didn't follow him home. Instead, I waited for the inevitable email. Do you want to know why David was so scared of the information release? He was scared because the internet was his safe haven. He was powerful there when we had our dare conversation, and for so long after that, I was the computer illiterate one and he ruled that domain. And now I had managed to track him in his safe place. Before, I had been weak and an easy target for his games. Now that I had seriously fought back and threatened him, he was worried. The email came while I could still see him walking away. Hello, Xander. Bravo. But I'm not going to meet in public, he wrote. To be honest, I posted Willis Park online because I figured he would want to change the location if it was a public place. And I didn't want to release the real address online. I didn't want anyone crashing the party and getting hurt. Sorry for lying. I'll be apologizing for lying a lot by the end of this post. I told him that I'd email him the new address 15 minutes before it was time to meet. He didn't respond. I didn't want him to have the address too early and show up to set any traps. He really should have countered with a location of his own, but he didn't. I stood up. Time to go to the warehouse and wait. The location I had chosen used to be a warehouse of some kind. I didn't care what it had been used for, only that it was abandoned and unguarded. If David tried anything stupid, which I thought he was going to, I didn't want any more innocent bystanders in the way. I took an Uber to a suburban area a few blocks away. When the Uber left, I walked to the warehouse. When I arrived, it was already almost 9 p.m. Not completely dark yet, but getting there. I walked around the perimeter of the warehouse, looking for any sign that David had beaten me here. There wasn't any sign that I could see. I approached a side door and pulled a key out of my pocket. I unlocked the chains from the door handle and stored them just inside the door as I entered. The soundscape changed from an ambient evening in the city to a tomb. The factory had a single floor that was one big open space. High above it, catwalks ran along the rafters, all leading from the warehouse manager's office, which was a metal cube suspended at one end of the warehouse. Shelf scaffolding that had been abandoned broke up the empty space. Crates and pallets were strewn around here and there, making hiding places. I had previously come and strategically arranged them in case it came down to a firefight. That's also when I had put chains on every door. There were 4 entrances into the warehouse, not including the windows near the ceiling. I chained them all except the one I entered through. That was my funnel. If you've ever gone hunting for live game, you know what I'm talking about. There was nothing left to do but to wait now. I sent him the address at 9:45. A rattling on the front door alerted me that he was here. He was a half hour late, which was an attempt to unnerve me. The door jolted repeatedly, but the chains held it shut. It was dark now. The only light streamed in the windows from the industrial-style streetlights outside. How am I supposed to meet you if you won't let me in? David called from outside. The hair on the back of my neck rose despite all my preparations. It was time. David tried all 3 doors. He skipped over the only one that was unlocked, and he absolutely had to. He knew what a funnel was, but he had no choice. The windows were too high and would result in a very high fall once he got in. The side door silently opened and in walked David fucking King. I stayed where I was behind a wooden crate stacked with pallets. If he came in shooting, I didn't want to be an easy target. Slow clapping filled the echoing room. Well done, David chanted. I peered through the pallets to see the door shut behind David. He was alone. Where is she? I said just loud enough to be heard. I'm so very impressed with you, Xander. Completely unexpected. He pulled his phone out of his pocket, lighting up the wall behind him. He began to read. Fuck you, David. Hashtag fuck David King. Xander, you brilliant bastard. Go get your girl. We are coming for you, David. Thousands of these, almost all saying the same thing. How does it feel to have people rooting for you? Do you feel better equipped to fight me now? Where is she? I enunciated. David knocked on the door behind him and it opened. In shuffled Katie. Her face was red and shimmering with tears. Duct tape had been wrapped around her entire head several times, covering her mouth. Her wrists had been similarly wrapped. A band of tape also tied her ankles together, but had enough slack that she could take small steps. A thick arm was wrapped around her neck as a tall blonde man with extremely curly hair guided her into the room. I said to leave your partner behind, I shouted, it echoed. If you don't want him here, then come kill me, David said. I didn't respond. God fucking damn it. So Xander, how would you like to proceed? You're running the show here, David called, looking around the warehouse. Send Katie forward and leave. Sorry. I don't have a guarantee that you won't release all that information anyway. Come on out here and we'll discuss my terms. Like hell I am. David looked to his partner, and his partner used his free arm to punch Katie in the side. She cried out as best she could through the duct tape and faltered, but the blonde man held her up by her neck. We can do this all night, David smirked. I stood up. My hiding place was off to David's left, so I walked in a semicircle until I was directly in David's line of sight. Come closer, he grinned. I stepped forward until we were a couple yards apart. Look how you've changed, he smirked. Your hair looks good. You should always dye it darker. You're so stoic now. Confident. Being on the run has changed you. I guess all we had to do to increase the minimum required effort was go on the run, huh? Then maybe we could have avoided this whole mess. Then again, it's all been so fun. Let's get this over with, I growled. So hostile, David commented. What's your first term? He leaves, I said, pointing to the blonde man. Okay, David shrugged. Before I could process what was happening, he pulled a handgun from his jacket pocket and shot the blonde man in the head. He collapsed, dragging Katie with him. Katie gave a muffled shriek and untangled herself from his body, dangling herself backwards along the floor. She backed into the wall and stayed there, eyes wide. David looked down at the body before slowly turning his head to me. My turn. Jesus Christ. It finally hit me how in over my head I was. I might understand David King, but I could never ever match his sickness. It occurred that I could die that night despite David's rules. Show me the data, he said. That's my first term. I want to know exactly what you're going to release so I know it's worth my only bargaining chip. I tried to hide my shaking hands as I pulled my phone out. I went into my email drafts on a throwaway account where I had saved a copy and emailed it to him. I sent it to you, I said. David smiled reassuringly. Fast as a lizard, he spun around and snatched Katie off the floor. She screamed as he stood her up and held her in front of him. I pulled my Ruger SR-45 handgun out of the concealed carry holster I'd worn and tried to get a clear shot. He was too fast and it caught me by surprise, so she was in front of him before I'd even lined him up in the sight. So, you got a gun after all, he said coolly. Didn't see that part in your post. Relax, I'm just making sure I can read in peace. He held the gun to her head with one hand while opening his phone with the other. My mind raced, trying to figure out the next steps. David had waltzed into a hostage negotiation that I arranged myself and took over. He took his time reading through the data dump. His expression changed between surprise and a smirk repeatedly. Well now, he said, putting his phone away and slipping his now free arm in Katie's neck. I had no idea I was so careless. He sounded anything but careless. Katie gasped as he suddenly gripped her neck tighter and pressed the muzzle against her temple. Let's move somewhere smaller, he said, looking up at the manager's box. I don't want you running away when the going gets tough. You first, Sand, he said, nodding his head towards the stairs to his right. The door he had entered from had a set of graded stairs off to the right that led up to the manager's box. They went up back toward the back wall, then turned to the left straight into the side of the manager's box. Another set of stairs should have been on the other side, mirroring those, but they had been disassembled and laid in a heap. I kept my face to David as I walked towards the stairs. I kept my gun pointed in his direction, and he kept his muzzle against Katie's head. Katie was sobbing and watching me. When I reached the stairs, I slowly backed up them. David followed once I was halfway up. At the top of the stairs, the door to the office stood. To the left, a graded walkway led out over the floor, spreading into catwalks that sprawled the entire place. I opened the metal door to the office and backed in. The only furniture in the room were two heavy wood tables. The rest of the office was bare. A thin slit of a window overlooked the warehouse floor. David pushed Katie into the room with his arms still around her neck and shut the door behind him. I followed him with my gun, standing against the opposite wall where the second door leading into the office was. The office was big enough that we were still a few yards away from one another. Now, I don't have to worry about you running off into the dark warehouse as fun as hide-and-seek sounds. I don't have the time. You know, when I found your posts, I thought I had stumbled across some sort of therapy story that you were putting up, but it was so much better. You really have surprised me. You've grown and changed to try and beat me, David smiled. But you haven't changed enough. I can see it in your face and your trembling hands. You are still you, Xander. You've changed your exterior, but inside you have the same motivations and weaknesses. He tightened his grip on Katie again. I know your next term is for me to let Katie go, so I'm going to skip your turn. I know you would prefer that she remain in my custody rather than getting shot, so I suggest you put down your gun. I stood my ground. I wanted to take a shot, but I didn't want to risk him being faster than me. I was confident in my aim, but not my speed. Put it down, he said again. I stayed. I'm going to drink some more water. In an instant, the gun had left her temple, fired a shot into the floor, and returned to her head. She sobbed, and the heat of the barrel on her skin must have hurt. I'm not fucking around, Xander, David shouted. Slowly, I set the gun on the floor and kicked it in his direction. Good choice, he said calmly. Have you realized why you're here yet? My face answered him. What did that even mean? Of course I did. You think you're here to save Katie. But you're not. She's been gone for a year now, and you've only built up memories of her. The Katie you know is dead. But not even that Katie is the reason you're here right now. No. You gave up on a happily ever after with Katie long ago. This isn't a hero's quest to save the princess. This is a revenge assault on the dragon. I tightened my jaw. I refused to admit he was right. This isn't about saving her. This is about outsmarting me. Keeping Katie safe and sound is just a result. Hold on, I have something. Here we go. So in that sense, you and I are the same. It's about outsmarting the other one. You started out simply living life, then progressed to defending yourself, then to protecting your loved ones. And now you've arrived where I wanted you to be all along, trying to ruin me. It took you a couple years, but you made it, at least, most of the way. Even if Katie isn't the true reason you're here, she's still a weakness. I'm gonna guess that other people in your life are the same way. You still have weaknesses that tie you down. I learned how to get rid of mine. Like your own mother, I sniffed. She was a liability, he said coldly. It wasn't personal. You're a sick fuck, I said. The door behind David silently opened. I'd oiled those hinges for hours, making sure they'd made absolutely no noise. I'm about to get a lot sicker, he said. He started to pull the trigger when he was tackled from behind. Katie tumbled out of his grasp as he tried to use both arms to catch himself. His gun went off, but the shot hit the wall. Katie rolled away from David's reach. David started to get up, but the assailant was on their feet faster. David, on his hands and knees, looked up at the attacker. Remember me, Clark? Remember me, bitch? Clark jeered and then punched into a downward arc into the side of David's head. David dropped to the floor, but he was still conscious. He grabbed Clark's leg and tore him to the ground. I raced forward and pulled Katie out of the scuffle. I dragged her out the door before getting her to her feet and cutting the tape on her hands with my pocket knife. There wasn't time to get the layers off her head. She was wide-eyed. Run! I hissed. Go outside. The cops will be here soon. I turned back inside to go help Clark. Not a romantic reunion, I know, but there was still a psychopath in there. David and Clark were wrestling on the floor, throwing punches and grappling with one another. David was bigger and landed a few hard punches. I looked over my shoulder, making sure Katie was stumbling down the steps. I dove in, aiming for my gun that was just beside the scuffle. David saw me and kicked my legs like a tentacle out of the ocean. I tripped and knocked the gun into the corner where I fell. David suddenly shoved Clark off of him. I practically tossed him onto one of the tables. I watched as David jumped up and made for his gun. I writhed on the ground and kicked. My toes barely caught the gun and sent it skittering across the room. There were 2 guns in the room, but both on opposite sides. 2 of us and only one of him. Clark rolled off the desk and jumped into David as he ran for the gun. They both slammed into the wall. I crawled for my gun, which was just out of reach by a couple of feet. There was another crash behind me. Oh God. My fingers wrapped around the gun and I twisted around on the ground, aiming it in their direction. I had turned just in time to see David fire a shot into Clark. There was no hesitation as I squeezed the trigger. It struck his shoulder. He whirled to face me. I fired again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Even after he'd stumbled back against the wall and slid down, I kept firing just to be sure, just to make sure that the fucker would never get back up again. My gun clicked to alert me that I had emptied the clip. 10 shots and everyone had hit David fucking King. I exhaled and dropped the gun, letting my head fall back to the floor. My heart pounded. My whole body shook, and I couldn't rest yet. Shakily, I got to my feet and stumbled over to Clark. He was crumpled against the wall, clutching his left shoulder. Blood oozed through his fingers. Damn. He shot me, he said, clearly in shock. That's when the police sirens could be heard. Get out of here, he said to me. No, I'll be fine. Police will be here any second to help me. Just get out. Get back on the run. I'll contact you when it's safe, Clark yelled. Go. I'm not letting you get arrested again until you get the facts straight. I rushed towards the door, stuffing the Ruger back in my pants as I moved. I paused at the door. Thank you, I said, looking at Clark. Go, he yelled again. I sprinted down the steps and ran to the door furthest in the back of the building. I unlocked the chains on the door and pulled it open. Ducking into the night, I'd run this path over and over, making sure it was good enough for an escape in case something went wrong. I went to my previously established hiding place and hunkered down to stay hidden. I sent a text to the server my script was on and entered the password to cancel the info dump. There never was a second person. That was a bluff. There was no reason to release the information to you now since David is dead. I'm sorry. I really appreciate the level of support to ruin David, but there's no point now. I thought he'd still be alive afterward. The police will get it eventually as evidence, though. I also tapped out I am alive in the Reddit thread to alert everyone that I had survived. Then, I collapsed into sleep. This morning, I was thinking clearly again and feeling better. I ate and drank lots to counter the shock. I've started making plans on where I'll go next. It isn't safe to stay here much longer. The news hasn't said anything about the incident yet, but I'm sure the story will break eventually. I've stayed glued to the radio app on my phone all day today, and I'm even listening now, hoping for an update on Katie or Clark. Thank you, Reddit. You've helped me remain positive these past few days and set this trap. It's finally done. I regret so many things about what I did and how I reacted in the past. I should have fought more forcefully before it came to this. I was too scared and didn't really understand David, but now I do. Only now it doesn't matter because he's gone. From here, I'll continue to stay on the run. I don't plan to turn myself in until Hernandez says the prosecution is ready to drop all charges. Hernandez is trying his hardest back at home to mitigate the evidence against me in all of these charges. Clark's testimony about what happened last night should really help reduce the credibility of David's claims. Plus, the GoPros we set up around the warehouse won't hurt. David's confession about his mother was a bonus I hadn't expected. Originally, we had intended to lock David in the manager's office for the police to find. Clark had called the police just before attacking. Circumstances had changed that plan. Some of you may wonder, well, what if David hadn't taken you up into the manager's office? We had contingency plans. That wasn't the only option. Regardless, all of our plans involved arresting David, not killing him. It was a last resort option and wasn't built into my plan. I didn't know I was prepared to kill until I had a gun aimed at David King. I don't think I fully processed the fact that I've killed someone. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel or act or think or anything. I feel like I'm acting the wrong way. Anyway, there's another part that will help persuade the prosecutor to drop the charges against me. I lied before when Hernandez came to visit me in jail. I said he told me he couldn't talk about Isaac's death, but he did tell me. They'd found a video file on Isaac's computer from the day he died. He'd been recording himself playing games for YouTube when there was a crash of silverware in the background. Isaac didn't hit pause on the recording and left the room to investigate. David came flying into the room, shoving Isaac into the bookcase. He slammed the door and was on him in seconds. The assault lasted only minutes. David walked out, leaving the door wide open. The camera watched him come back into the room with my pillow. He held the pillow over Isaac's body and hit it repeatedly. All the dead skin from my pillow fell onto Isaac's body. They found those traces on Isaac's body, but the video proved that I hadn't killed him. David had walked out and locked the door behind him. He'd made a mistake and hadn't checked what was running on the computer. All he saw was the game. Hernandez and I had been in contact when I was first on the run. I lied about that too. When I had first contacted him, he started crying on the phone, apologizing repeatedly. He told me that he knew if I stayed in jail, that I would, at the very least, lose a lot of time out of my life while the trial went on, even if David was accused later as more evidence came out. He had accepted David's deal and demanded that I be given half the $15,000 he was paid. David, as you know, only gave me $2,000, but Hernandez had hoped it would help me lay low and evade capture until he could successfully contest the evidence. We fully intend to report the bribe to the police. He told me that after my escape from the car, the police were very suspicious about the circumstances of my escape. There were too many holes in the story, and Hernandez had been sure to point out every last one repeatedly to his boss. A lot of you pointed them out too. Paint from the truck rubbing off, bars separating from the front seat from the back seat, GPS in the truck marking his whereabouts, and the location of the crash in relation to the time David sounded the alarm. David had clearly been desperate to get me out of jail. He risked bribing an official and left a lot of his plan up to chance to get me out. David just didn't want to end the game yet. If I went to jail, it was over. Yet, there were still so many ways he could ruin my life. His need for quick action led to mistakes. Hernandez also told me he came to visit that Jackson had turned up. He'd come home a couple days after I was arrested and was brought in for questioning. He had proof and witnesses that he had been staying with his family for a few days. When asked about the break-in and the theft, he told his story. David had knocked at the door just as Jackson was finishing packing to go on vacation. He told Jackson that he was a friend of mine and was helping me move out. Jackson let him in and finished packing. He was just walking towards the door with a suitcase when David asked if he would be willing to help carry out the TV. Jackson agreed and carried it out with David. He then grabbed his suitcase and left, asking David to lock up when he was done. That's when he started stealing everything and trashing our house. That's also when Isaac would have come out and been killed. It solved the riddle of why the door had been locked and not broken when Clark found the apartment stripped bare. There's still some questions that I don't have answers to. We haven't been able to figure out what he did with all the things he stole from us. We also don't know who the partner is. Hernandez should know that in a few days and let me know. I also don't know how the keylogger got on my computer or when the tracking app was installed on my phone, or how David was able to provide my social security number, driver's license number, and all other accurate information to the credit card companies. The same goes for the fraud that was committed against my parents. I can't help but wonder if David had been in our house before the break-in and done all of that. As for Clark, his disgraceful exit was a fabrication to throw David off. It was my idea to make him disappear from my life and take the target off his back. It was both to protect him from David's rage and so that he could support me in the background. His mom did come and bail him out, but she was much kinder about the situation and worried like all moms do. When I messaged Clark to tell him my plan in posting the series, he immediately jumped to help me, and without him, I'd still be watching David and waiting for a good moment to strike. It was his idea to plant the information about hiding his bank information on scraps of paper around town. It was placed as a joke and a way to tell if he was reading the series. We wanted to see if David would go hunting for them. He didn't. But that was probably because he was on the run still. Clark's arraignment didn't go so well. He's still being charged with a misdemeanor for graffitiing David's old house. An expert was called to analyze the photographs and identify them as authentic and undoctored. Either David has someone doing a hell of a Photoshop job, or he took pictures from angles that cut me out naturally. We're still trying to figure out how to resolve his problem. With Katie, I've yet to see her beyond those brief moments while confronting David. It's been only a few days for all of you throughout the series, but for all of us, she's been missing for a year. I have no idea what David or his partner might have done to her during all that time. I don't know when I'll ever be able to see her again, since I'm still on the run until the charges are dropped. If the charges are dropped, that is. I'm scared to see her. I know David did it, but I feel responsible. I wonder if she blames me. I wonder if she hates me. Maybe one day I'll know. What David said has shaken me. I've spent a lot of time thinking about it today. He told me I was there for him and not for Katie. That I was after the dragon and not the princess. I've realized that he's right. I've read a few of your responses and agree with you. I didn't write all that much about Katie during the series. If it had been about Katie, I would have written more. The fact that I left her to go back and fight says volumes about why I set this trap. David was right. It wasn't about Katie. Katie was a result. It makes me feel guilty and dirty to think about it. Maybe it would be best if I never saw her again. She's not likely to want to see me. Katie, if you're reading this, if you can ever handle it, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Once again, thank you, Reddit. You've helped so much with your support, encouragement, and your unknowing aid in making this trap for David. I couldn't have done this without you. The last 2 years have been hell, but it's finally over. We ruined David fucking King. Ooh! There's a Reddit comment that says, after careful consideration, I believe to have come to the realization that this David guy isn't an extremely good friend. Oh. There is a second series, and my throat's a little too dead right now to read it, but it kind of starts off kind of crazy, where it says, "Hello Reddit, this is Clark, Xander's friend. I hope you'll remember me from the last series that Xander posted. I wish I was here to say thank you for all your help in getting David King what he deserved. I wish I was here to tell you that all of Xander's charges have been dropped and that we are returning to normal life. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because Xander is missing." Ooh! Who's Clark? It's the friend that, they went to vandalize David's house, and he was the one that got, like, in trouble for graffitiing the house. And then, after they got in trouble, his mom was like, "I never want you to see him again." Dun, dun, dun! And also, this next series is called I Dared My Best Friend to End My Life. They were roommates. What is this? Is this a BRB? Yes. Okay. I'm going to quickly go to the bathroom, and then we can chat for a bit, okay? I'll be right back. You guys stay here. Or else. I'm back. Hello. Are you guys role playing? Are you guys role playing? Anybody want to ruin my life? Welcome back. Thank you. Thank you. That sure was a thing. I remember when I first read that, I felt like, wow, this is so interesting. And now I'm remembering how it is. Oh my gosh. You asked me to do it. I think Mochi really hates me. My gosh. Ugh. I said that my throat felt better and that I thought I got all my tonsil stones out, but I can feel one back there. Many things that make no sense, but kind of exciting. Yeah, it is exciting. It doesn't really make sense and it's kind of garbled, but yeah. I think it can be a fun read. It's kind of silly and over the top, you know? I love reading these kinds of things. Maybe you should make one. Do you think I'd be able to write a, like... Sorry. I was typing to someone about something work related and they're like, are you streaming? Do you think I'd be able to write something enticing? Like a really good no sleep story? I would love to read a Shiki no sleep story. Maybe I will write one. Maybe I will write one. Very over the top, would probably make an entertaining movie. Yeah, I think it would also make a pretty entertaining movie, or like a short series, like a limited series or something like that. I think it'd be interesting. The title can be, Aren't You Let's make a VTuber related no sleep story. I think that would be so awesome. You know what? Maybe I'll make that a challenge for myself. Maybe I will write a no sleep story for Halloween this year and release it and do a reading of it. Maybe that would be a fun activity to do. I don't think I'm a very skilled writer. I feel like I'm better at writing like small skits and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to write like a full scenario with like dialogue and stuff like that. We shall see. It might be a fun little activity. Guys, I'm drinking so much water lately because I'm trying to improve my health. I can feel a tonsil stone back there. I thought I got rid of all of them, but it's like I couldn't feel it for a while, but now I feel it again. And I think it's because I've been singing, like I've been recording lately, and so it's like pushing it whenever I sing. I think it would turn into an autobiography more than anything. I have the plot in my head already. You talk to a friend while out of your house and you mention where you are, and then they go, but aren't you streaming? There's a movie like that. It's called Cam Girl. It's called Cam Girl. Hello, hello. Someone else is streaming with your model? That's so fucking scary. There's a skinwalker in my house. Oh, Ozzy's digging into the bed. These dogs can be so frustrating, but they are the lights of my life. My little angels. My little wieners. Or just Hani being silly. She is so silly. I think she is like peak silly whimsical. She's very relaxed and chill, and so you don't expect her to have the amount of silly and whimsicalness that she has. She has so much whimsy. She has so much whimsy. Oh, speaking of Hani, I have a stream planned with her soon. Not super soon, but like, on October 12th. On October 12th, we're gonna be playing The Quarry together. And we're gonna be playing like the co-op version of it. And she's gonna be playing on her PC, and I'm gonna be playing for my PC. We're gonna be in the same... We're gonna be in 2 different rooms. We're gonna be in the same house in 2 different rooms streaming together. So we're gonna be playing The Quarry, and she's a big baby, so I'm really excited to see how she handles this. Hiki is letting her use his PC for it too, because she doesn't have the best PC, especially for gaming, I feel like. Like, not streaming and gaming, so he was like, I'm gonna be on a business trip anyway, so you can use my PC. So, we're gonna be doing that. Let's see, what kind of stuff do we have starting in October? So, oh, I can read my schedule for you guys for next week already. On the 29th, we have Persona 4. On the 30th, we have 2 streams. No, we have 1 stream. It's just 1 stream. I'm gonna do Just Chatting with song requests. On Wednesday, we have 2 streams. Wednesday, we have Patreon only, and then in the nighttime, we have a collab. We're gonna be playing Labyrinthine. And then Thursday, the 2nd, I'm gonna be playing more Song of Horror. And then on Friday, I'm gonna keep playing Silent Hill F with Yura. And then on that Sunday, on the 5th, I believe that we will finally be playing the Mountain of Madness TTRPG that Yura has been preparing. Then I think I even have the next week planned out. Let's see. I do, for the most part. I've got a collab. I'm playing Dig. Is that it? Is it called Dig, or is it just what the collab is called? I don't know. It's a game about digging with several people. And I've also gonna be a part of a karaoke relay. I don't know when that's happening. And then that Sunday is when I'm playing the Quarry with Hani. I'll try to fit some fun horror games that we can play during that week too. I think after that week I'll probably have to take a little break, but we shall see. We shall see. Because I've got so much to do. I have so much on my plate right now. But I'm hoping that I can get through it as best I can. Hopefully. Guys, I just got spoiled. I just got spoiled on the next guest for Mama Tomo Talk, and I will not say who it is, but I'm very excited about it. Because I can see Pina's calendar. Ooh, yippee! This is gonna be awesome. Spooky season is upon us. This is gonna be awesome. Gasp! Gasp! It's probably real. She did just have a new baby girl. What's her daughter's name again? Rocky Irish Mares. Ah. Wait. What the heck? Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. I was like, isn't her husband named Rocky? ASAP Rocky, but his real name is Rakeem. Oh. Yeah, her daughter's name is Rocky Irish. Rocky Irish Mares. Very interesting. They've got 3 kids now. They have 2 sons and now a daughter. Rocky or Rocky? It's spelled like R-O-C-K-I. Her daughter. R-O-C-K-I. Rocky. Rocky. Who is Sanson? Do do. Do 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 do. Oh, I've seen Sanson around. No, that is not the next guest. But I will not say who it is. That's up to Pina to announce. Almost like hit Mikito P Vocaloid song Rocky. Rocky Rocky Ro, Rocky Rocky Ro. Oh yeah. Rocky Road Ice Cream. Rocky Road Ice Cream. My goodness. It's been so, the weather has been so strange lately. It's been like raining really hard for like a few minutes and then stopping and then raining again. And then it's like it goes between gloomy and sunny. So strange. Maybe it's Cap. Ooh. Maybe Pina can work some magic and get the original hackers on, because he's a father. Maybe he should be on Momotomo Talk. I asked if I could be on Momotomo Talk, because I'm not a mother, and I'm not pregnant, but I am an aspiring mother, and it would be really fun to talk to someone, like, about a bunch of stuff related to being a mother. I love that kind of stuff. I love it. I love it. It's so awesome. You're not pregnant, but so ready to be pregnant. Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. But yeah, I think it'd be fun. Oh, I have so much to do today. I have so many chores. And I have so much grunt work to do. I have so much stuff. So I probably should end stream probably soon now that we've finished the first series. But it's kind of a short stream. No, I gotta do what I gotta do. Ugh. I gotta do what I gotta do, guys. Thursdays are always really busy days for me. So I think we will probably end stream here. I know it's under 2 hours. I'm so sorry. But tomorrow should be a pretty long stream. I think we're gonna go like 5 or 6 hours or something like that. So me and Yura will be here and we will be playing Silent Hill F and it's gonna be so awesome. But luckily, you know, I have a bunch of streams planned for next week. I think there's like 7 streams, so there is a lot to look forward to next week. So I hope you guys will look forward to that. This week has been pretty busy for me, trying to catch up on a lot of stuff, and also I'm spending time with my mom and Honey and stuff like that. So, are you sure the stream is gonna end? I'm so fucking scared. You're scaring me. Let me find someone for us to raid. We're gonna raid into Tomoe Carmine, who's playing Hades too. Thanks for the story reading, of course. I want to do another one. I want to find a really spooky one that I can read sometime in October as well. So I might take some recommendations from you guys at a later time so I can do another reading, because I like reading these during spooky time. Aren't you streaming? It's real. Oh my gosh. Alright guys, well, I'm gonna head out for now. I got tons of stuff that I gotta get done. Thank you so much for coming out and listening to me read. It was a lot of fun. And I'll see you tomorrow for Silent Hill F. I'm excited. Alright, here we go.